What is up, Facebook Live? Noel Walsh coming at you tonight on June 19th, 2018. It happens to be my mother, Debbie Malone's birthday today. Happy birthday to you, Mom. We all love and appreciate you, and happy birthday to everybody else out there who is tuning in. Tonight's live stream is a very special live stream. It's something that I've gone through in my own career, and I've gone through even more recently in my career because I was actually talking to my mom today for her birthday, and we talked about how we're both doers, and how we're always pushing ourselves past our limits, and we're always trying to do more than we can really focus on and accomplish. It's just the way we are. It's just the way that we grew up. And so tonight we're going to talk about when to work harder and when to work smarter. Now, we all hear the phrase all the time, work smarter, not harder. Yes, this is true, but oftentimes it does take hard work, it does take grit, it takes a little bit of grinding, it takes a little bit of hustling to really get ourselves to that point where we can simply work with our wits and with what we know that works. And really, you really have to carry all those hard work traits along with you the whole time. You can't just give up on them when you find out processes and systems and strategies and ways to work smarter. You still have to have a compassion. You still have to keep that in your side pocket, in your holster, the ability to work hard, the ability to roll up your sleeves, the ability to get dirty. I see all the time when I go in and train dealerships and I hear salespeople and they say, well, I really used to respect the owner because he or she was here all the time, they were hands-on, they knew what everybody's numbers were, they knew everything that was going on, and now all of a sudden they're not hands-on at all, they're never around, they pull up in their fancy car in front of the building, and then they just go in, they do their thing, and then they're out. So we always want to have that hands-on, we always want to have that hard work, because we might have to go back to working harder. And we have Jim Weaver with us right now, as well as Andrea May. Thank you both for the comments, and I know you're both hard workers and you're both smart workers also. And so tonight what I wanted to share with you is some different strategies that I've used recently, what I used when I was actually on the sales floor, and what I teach my clients through my in-house training, NW&A sales training, as well as my coaching, NW&A sales coaching and training, as well as Conquer You online virtual sales training. And that's that we want to know, we want to learn, we want to have that ability. We don't want to be too proud that we're afraid to put in the hard work. We want to put in the hard work, but over time, we want to do things to work smarter. And I'm going to share some of those strategies and processes on ways to work smarter. Now, when we start out working hard, what we're getting is we're probably cold calling customers, we might be door knocking, we're trying to contact everybody in our network, we're trying to utilize social media, we're trying to do all these things. Now, we might not have the right processes or systems in place yet that are going to make all our efforts effective, but the fact is we're taking action, we're doing things. We all know the best way to usually learn is to learn the hard way, is to learn yourself, but I'm going to share some strategies with you that you can implement to make sure that you are doing that hard work. Now, when it comes to cold calling, try and get your hands on the right list to cold call. These would be people who use your service department, who were just in there recently, who've used your body shop, who have purchased there before and their salesperson is no longer around, who have inquired numerous times and have many notes in your CRM about inquiring about different vehicles. These are people that we would want to cold call. It's easier to cold call somebody who we've got a higher percentage chance of doing business with than just cold calling out of the yellow pages. Believe me, I've been in the business long enough. I've known people that's how they were trained. They were handed a phone book and they said, start with the A's. Start calling everybody, start calling all the businesses, and just call. Well, the thing is, that can be draining. That's a lot of hard work. We don't realize that when we make 100 phone calls, we only get 10 pickups, we get rejected 9 times, and we get a possible appointment out of that. Absolutely how draining and how straining that is to us, and how much that makes us wore out. So if you are going to do the cold calling, cold call on the right list, on people that have a higher percentage chance of doing business with your dealership or your place of business that have done business there in the past. Now, another thing of hard work is door knocking. Now, I do door knocking in my business when I go and do training or I'm speaking at a conference in other states. I always make sure I take a couple days to go introduce myself to let people know who I am and what I do. I do door knock. Now, the most effective thing is to try and door knock on businesses where you might have an in, where your cousin might know somebody who works there, where somebody you know somebody who you know knows somebody who works there, who gives you an in, who gives you an in opportunity. If you don't have that, then you know, always utilize your network. That's part of hard work. Let people know what you do, why you do it, who you do it for, who your ideal client is, and what you do for people who refer business to you. But even if you don't have people referring you to businesses or places of business where you can go door knock, what you want to do is do research on it. Also, one thing to do is show your face in the same places. This would be going to the same restaurant for lunch or for breakfast when you go out. Get to know the waitresses, get to know the cooks, get to know the host and the hostesses. That these people talk to a lot of people. Things that people talk about doing is they talk about vacations, they talk about their kids, they talk about their recreation, they talk about big purchases like cars, engagement rings, houses, boats. So these waitresses talk to people. Put them on a program to where you can give them a referral or you can give them some kind of bounty, whatever legal in your area, to refer business to you, even if that's getting people's names, a handful of names. Hey, I know this really good car salesman. Hey, I know this really good car saleswoman. She specializes in this. She's very professional. She comes in here all the time. He comes in here all the time. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him, this, or that. I'll have him call you. We've kind of got an affiliate partnership program going on. I'll have him call you. But when we are going to do the door knocking, we're going to do stuff like that. We want to always pick high percentage situations. Yeah, door knocking, cold calling are always low percentage marketing, low percentage results. But we want to put in full effort to the right people for the right reasons, and the right things will happen at the right times. Always remember this, that we have to stay consistent. We have to try and approach the right people. Same thing with social media. Oftentimes, I teach this all the time. Build a business page. With business pages, you can see the analytics. You can boost. You can do ads. You can go after a specific demographic, a specific audience for very light spending. You can do this to promote yourself, your product, and your dealership, but all with your name first, face forward. Rather than having just one generic business page for your whole dealership, people see something there. They might even see your video, but they just call the number and they end up getting Tammy or they end up getting Johnny. Now that video and everything that you did has helped somebody else. It's going to help you place a business, but it might not necessarily help you. So you want to get a business page. Once again, try and get people to like that. Try and promote that. Growing pages organically, I've seen, has had the biggest impact. So make sure that you grow a business page, that you do it tastefully. It's all about putting the right content on there. Try and get people to like it. Try and promote it. There are many different strategies. I've got some trainings in my online training and courses. There's tons of videos talking about how to do it. Oftentimes the best way to learn is see somebody who you want to be like and see what they're doing. But I always recommend posting on your business page 4 to 5 times a week. Maybe something about your ad on the internet or in the paper or whatever your guys' specials are, whether it's used vehicles, whether it's leasing specials, whether it's rebates, whether it's last year's models, whether it's a brand new model. Advertise that, a couple pictures, and preferably video testimonies from buying customers, and then maybe once or twice a week a demonstration video where you're doing a video where people get to see your personality, people get to see your knowledge, and people get to see your passion. That's why videos are so powerful. Videos have really taken over the last 2, 3, 4 years, especially on social media, and because people get to learn you, they get to find you out. I see a lot of you who have joined right here. Thanks for the share, Jim. And Absolutely, Andrea. But I see a lot of familiar people on here. That's because, and I appreciate every one of you, and you're here, and sometimes you might disappear for a while, but you always find yourself back because of the videos, because of the content I shared, because of the professionalism, because of the way I hold myself. I put myself in a situation, in a scenario to all of you, to where you know, like, trust, and respect me, and therefore you let me entertain you, you let me teach you, and you like to join in with the culture, the network that we've built here that joins in weekly. That is all of what it's all about. Anthony Santangelo, thank you very much. I appreciate that. These are all ways to work harder. You need to be what I would recommend on social media. You need to be on Facebook, have a business page, link it with Instagram. It's very easy. You can post to Instagram and it'll go to Facebook. It makes it very simple. Same thing if you have business pages, you can do this so it goes to your business page. Also have automated, like I just signed up with Buffer. I've used Hootsuite in the past. Have automated so you can send your text, your post out to multiple platforms. You're using the same thing. It's hard to always create new content. But if you aren't posting enough, you aren't getting seen enough, you aren't being seen as a specialist enough, so that is something that comes with it. That's the hard work. It's not going to pay you back right in the beginning. You aren't going to do a Facebook video and get 50 phone calls to buy a vehicle off you the next day. But if you do this consistent, you're getting it out to the right people for the right reasons, at the right time, you'll see the right results. That's what it's always about, is doing that. I would definitely focus on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. From there, if you want to work more platforms, Pinterest is growing a lot of traction, as is Snapchat. Twitter's been along for a long time. A lot of people think that Twitter's gone. I see some people that do very well on Twitter. I wouldn't count Twitter out. YouTube's always a factor there. Once again, you can create these videos, you can share it to LinkedIn, you can share it to your business page, you can share it to Instagram up to a minute, and then you can create this into a YouTube video that you can use for further links, especially if you just went out there and you shot a video, like I said, a demonstration video once a week. Oftentimes you might have, or twice a week, you might have somebody who says, hey, I'd really like to see the features and benefits of a middle of the road, of a middle of the line Ford Fusion. And so you've got one of these. Hey, I've got one right here. Here's this model, da 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 da. And so Anthony Santangelo said, your consistency will give you the results you want, and absolutely putting in the time, being consistent, you will definitely see the results. You do the right things for the right reasons to the right people at the right time, the right things will happen. Matthew Struble, thank you. You got me all choked up there. I love you too, bud. I appreciate that. So we at times always need to know, well, we always need to know how to work harder, how to work hard. We always need to know how to work harder. But what we want to do is, I always say, own your sales job as an actual sales career. Don't look at it as a job. So come in with the mentality, the ability to work hard, always keep an open mind. A couple people stated that. In fact, I've heard that a lot today on a lot of other posts. Have an open mind, always have the will, the ability. Don't be too proud to learn more or to always focus on gaining more knowledge. We all know that knowledge is power, but we also know that knowledge is powerless without action. So put in the hard work, put in that time, learn how to work hard, learn what to do, stay consistent, and then you can start working smarter. So ways to work smarter are, I always say, you can figure out to go just about anywhere on your own. You'll probably get lost, you might get lost in the woods, you might not ever be seen again, but you can pretty much try and figure out where to go on your own. It's always easy to stop and ask for directions or get the map and have an actual road map that shows you how to get there, why you should get there, and when you do these things, what happens, and how to know that you're getting there. And so we always want to learn how to work smarter. One of the things that I did is, when I got past my own pride, my own ego early in my sales days, and I started kind of dropping every year, those of you who know that what I've shared in the past is I came out like a ball of fire as the top used car salesperson at this dealership with 35 salespeople. I did the top used car numbers. I made really good money. I was 21 years old, had like no overhead. Well, then I'm getting married, I'm buying engagement rings, I'm buying my house, and I start making less money. And I couldn't really figure it out, and I could blame it on a million things like we always can, but really it was me. I thought I knew too much. I was a little too arrogant. I was a little too cocky. I was skipping the steps to the sale. I was getting sloppy. I was taking shortcuts. I wasn't being as effective. I wasn't being as genuine. Well, then I switched over to new cars about my 3rd year in, and so I started watching the top salesperson there. His name was Bill Brinke. He still sells. He's about my father's age. He still sells. He's still very successful. He's had health issues. But this guy, this was back in the day that we could program our cell phones. This is when really very few people gave out their cell phones. You're talking early 2000s to customers, not maybe 50 or 60% of people had cell phones. It's not like now to where every 10 or 12-year-old and up has one. But this guy always had his desk phone on him. And he would be out there, and I don't care if he had a delivery coming in, I don't care if he had 4 appointments coming in, he would talk to every single customer. Even if he knew they were other people's customers, he would talk to him, he'd entertain him, he would ask, is Noel taking care of you? Are they showing you the right vehicles? Does everything happen? He would try and take that deal from you, but what I learned from him was, I didn't really learn that etiquette, but what I learned from him is that he never quit working, that he never waited around for things to happen. He was always out there making things happen. And he was very thorough with his customers, and when he sat down with his customers, his only priority was to make a deal happen. He wasn't completely focused on commission, he always did well, but was to make that deal happen and was to be in that customer's presence. And he always really worked hard on doing that. He was very successful, always sold a lot of numbers, always had a big following, even with different mistakes, health problems, all this kind of stuff that we're all going to go through in life. And he was always taking advantage of every opportunity, and he was never waiting. Well, what I did is I started watching what he did. I started following how he did. I started following how he talked to his customers, because he was pretty much 80-90% referral repeat. Now, he'd still take as many ups as anybody else, but he's still 80 or 90% referral and repeat business. And it's because he took care of his people. He was in the presence. And then what I learned in sales, this is really where it clicked, and I went from a 5-figure to a 6-figure income along with some other changes, but when it really clicked was when I stopped worrying about how this customer could help me and what I could make off this customer and what kind of commission I could make and all this stuff, and I started focusing on the customer and truly wanting to serve, help the customer, get what they want and need. Everything finally came together for me in sales in a consistent way. And it was kind of like it grew, you know, I was talking to my dad the other day when we were talking about business, and my dad's the one who initially trained me and got me into business. And, you know, he said, you know, you start out crawling, then you start to walk, and then you start to run, and really, when you work smart, things just kind of take off. And that's what my sales did, and it was really just a few adjustments, watching what the best did, always be willing to learn, and really focusing on the customer in front of me and how can I offer the value, the satisfaction, the convenience to the want and need that they are looking for. And when I did this, everything just changed, and I started getting all these referrals just coming in, calling, emailing. I would always get 100% surveys without even asking the customer, or a lot of places do some stuff that you aren't even supposed to do to try and get these good surveys. That everything just kind of started taking care of itself because I took care of them. And see, referrals work 2 ways. Is when I refer you to somebody and you say, Noel, thank you for referring me to so-and-so for this problem that I had. They called right on time. The staff was friendly. They were right there when they said they were going to be. The price was less than they quoted me, and they followed up with me. Thank you so much. Now that's a compliment to me. So for me to refer that business, that became a compliment to me, and people see value in me. The referral that we never want is, hey, did my person call you from ABC for the problem that you had? Well, we called twice, we left a message, we got a text stating that a technician or somebody was going to be calling us. At the end of the day, we never got anything. I had my wife call back, she left another message, they sent another text, nobody ever called back, so we just found so-and-so. Now, people are going to devalue your recommendations. They're going to devalue who you refer. So you always want to realize that repeat and referral business, you have to work the smartest with. It's not all about the hard work. It's about working smarter. It's about saying the right things. It's about doing the right things for the right reasons, for the right people at the right times, and the right things will continue to happen. Now, when you do this and you consistently work smarter, what you're doing is you're creating processes and you're creating systems. So now, rather than having to go through and get lists and try and find people to call to sell vehicles, you can just call your customers, check with them, ask them how things are doing, ask them how little Billy's soccer game was, ask them how little Sally's dance recital was. And by the way, while I've got you on the line, we've got a great program right now on these vehicles, and they're saving people a lot of money, and in most cases I'm able to drop people's payments and put them in a newer vehicle. Who do you know in your church? Who do you know on your kid's Little League team whose parents? Who do you know this? Who do you know from work? Minimalize the source of where they could give you a referral, and this will open up their mind so that they can go to other sources in their head and say, well, no one from my church, but I was talking with this other dad, and he was saying how his wife just can't stand her minivan, and they're getting a camper, they need something bigger to tow that, right? Now people can say, hey, there was this guy, and all I know is his name's Chuck, but he works for this, he's a foreman here, he does this. Gives you a name, gives you an in. Hey, do me a favor, if you could. Get his name, telephone number, and email. Hand him one of my business cards. Tell him I'll be calling him. And at the very least, what I'll do is I'll give him some different options, some different programs to see if we're competitive with his other options, with the other vehicles, with the other dealerships, with the other places he's looking to do business with. We always want to tell people that we want to give them options. This is working smarter. I want to give you options. We all like having options, although we all hate having too many options, but we all like having options. Now, getting back to working harder. So I showed you ways to work harder because it is going to take consistent, constant hard work to build your business. Now, your business will grow fast when you start working smarter and start selling smarter, but you keep those hard work habits. Now, one thing that I noticed with my own career was I sold cars and lived in Michigan, or sold cars in Michigan, lived here in St. George, and I traveled, and I did that for 20 months. And then I came back here, and I really had let go a lot of my clients. I hadn't had my online training yet. Because of the prices that I was charging, it was okay when I lived in Michigan, but to travel out to Michigan, it had changed, and now all of a sudden, just like a lot of things, and I teach with your customers, you know, if you take somebody from a $200 payment and put them in the same vehicle and it goes up to $500, now all of a sudden you're taking advantage of them. Even though they don't realize there's some super smoking deal, or they had $5,000 equity, or what have you, they put down a bunch of money, for some reason they're getting taken. The same thing goes with anything. Right? So now all of a sudden my training is going to double or triple because of the commute and the expenses of that. And so a lot of us kind of somewhat parted ways. So I started rebuilding my business. And at first it was all social media, online approach, strategy. And I did that, but I'm a people person. I like to be with people. Although you see me online all day, although you see me creating content for online and for my Conquer You training, my online virtual training, I'm a people person. So then I tried to switch that strategy to going and working the Las Vegas market, always door knocking along the way, but working the Las Vegas market. So I joined the Chamber of Commerce there, and I'd go there 1 or 2 days a week. And I started joining some network events here, going once or twice a week. Well, then I started doing more and more things for my business, started getting more active in certain social media platforms, and it got to the point where I was doing so much that I would have basically a crash day to where I was just completely exhausted. And I just couldn't figure this out because I'm the guy that never runs out of energy. Well, the problem was I was trying to do too much. I was trying to do too many things for the wrong reasons. So when you do this and you just focus on hard work, through that, I probably lost a lot of sales and clients through the way because I was trying to get so much done, I didn't focus on the things that were most important in front of me. So that was working hard, but not working smart. It created a lot of traction. It created a lot of waves. It created a lot of energy out there. It got my name out further, but I was losing that low-hanging fruit oftentimes because I was trying to do too much other things. So sometimes we can get to where we work so hard that we aren't really working effective. And when we do this, we can be working so hard that now all of a sudden we're kind of cutting corners. we might be a little cloudy, we might not be taking care of ourselves as much, we might not be as good with our follow-up, we might not be doing the things that we need to do to the right people at the right times for the right reasons because we're doing too many other things. So that's when we want to switch to working smarter. And we want to always have that ability to work hard to do the right things, but we want to make sure that we aren't just throwing all this energy out there hoping something sticks to the wall. We want to do the right things for the right people at the right times for the right reasons, and the right things will happen. And that's really what we want to focus on. It's not always 1,000 phone calls a day. It's, I would rather have 10 quality phone calls than 1,000 phone calls with 2 quality prospects every day. And because I can really pour my energy in that, I can really investigate and identify what they're trying to do, and I can really keep that flow of momentum and energy and confidence moving forward. That's what sales does. Those of you in car sales, right after you sell a vehicle, I'm sure all of you have heard this, first thing your manager will tell you is go out and get another one. That's because you're hot, you got the hot hands, you're saying the right things, you've got the confidence, you've got the swagger, you're on your game, you're knowing your product, you're knowing your competition, you're knowing your process. You want to keep that going. And oftentimes if we're just doing the work, seeing very little results, we look at work as straining and is really wearing and is bearing on us. So we always want to make sure, like Andrea Me just said, quality over quantity. And I talked about these on live streams before, but that's what working smarter is. Working harder is trying to do a quantity of things. Working smarter is doing the quality things the right way, the same way, every time, and expecting similar results than we've seen in the past. Of course, we adjust it for maybe different kinds of buyers, maybe different kinds of products, maybe different kinds of people, maybe different kinds of scenarios, but we do what works the same way every time, and we can see similar results. And thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate that. The best time to sell a car is right after you sold one. Absolutely. Andrea Me said, Anthony, serving others always. Absolutely. Thank you, Calvin. Brittany Foster, always glad to have you. Yes, and Anthony Santangelo said, especially our female clients, provide them options and it will make the closing process easier. That's the other thing. I was talking to a corporate trainer today of a store I'm looking to onboard here soon, of a dealer group, and we talked about how you can't sell things the way that you did in the 70s and 80s. And this gentleman's been in the business for quite a while. He's very, very worthy, very intelligent. He knows the business, very high levels. He's a corporate trainer now, and we were talking about how you can't sell things the way you did then in the 70s or 80s. And that's so true, and sometimes that's true with females. And so know the difference in your customers. Same thing with young people. With young people, when they come in, we might not know. They might work for Google and make $150,000 a year, and they might be wearing some silly t-shirt with some meme on it and some jeans and just some regular shoes and not think really anything of them, and everybody wants to run. But the young crowd really likes to be treated like everybody else is treated. They want to feel like they'd be treated the same if they were there by themselves as if they were there with their mom and dad. And that's really what they want. They really want the respect. No one likes to be hard-closed or hard-sold. No one does. I always say that no one likes to be sold, everyone likes to buy, and everyone wants to feel like it was their idea. And when you go in with that approach, with that mentality for every customer, and maybe adjust it for the buyer in front of you, for the demographic that they might fit, for the personality that they portray, and if you go in with that approach, you'll be amazed how much people will tell you. I remember when I sold vehicles, and there was nothing more annoying than hello, welcome to Varsity Ford. My name's Noel Walsh. What can I help you find today? Nothing. Okay, excellent. So you're here to look at vehicles today, correct? Yes. Excellent. What kind of vehicles did you have in mind? I'm sure you've been doing some research, like most of my customers do a little bit of preliminary research. Are there some certain models or some certain vehicles that you had in mind that you want to look at? Not sure. And so when we have that customer, it's just painstaking, it's tough. because it can take us 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to just really find out what they're there for. And oftentimes we can get frustrated, so then what do you get? You get a clash of the prides, right? You get everybody trying to take over the scenario. And you get the salesperson that feels that they're being disrespected, that they're kind of being tugged along, and then you get the client, the customer, who maybe feels like the salesperson is being pushy. So we want to go in with the right approach for the right reasons, understand what they're looking for, have empathy is one of the fastest ways to create a relationship, to let people you understand what they've been through, you feel bad for them, and you aren't going to let that happen. And I can say, they'll say, why did this salesperson do this to me when I bought my last vehicle? And I say, I can't tell you that because that wasn't me. But one thing I can tell you is that won't happen when you deal with me. I hold myself as a professional. I'm not looking to sell you one vehicle. I'm looking to sell you 10 vehicles, and I'm looking to sell everyone you know 10 vehicles as well. So I'm going to give you the red carpet service. I'm going to make you feel like the king and queen that all my clients are to me, and I'm going to make sure that we do good business for many more years to come, because there's nothing more beneficial than having a professional in our life that when we have a want or need for something, that professional covers, that we know we've got a go-to person that will take care of us for the right reasons. And that is working smarter. And so, like I talked about, sometimes we're tempted to just put in that work, put in that work, put in that work, put in that work. That's good. But make sure you're still working smart. And on the flip side, when you get your process and you get your systems down and you get your sales game down, make sure that you aren't losing that grit, that hustle, that hard work, that passion, that persistence, that consistency. Because without hard work and smart work, you're going to have small results. If you just work hard, you're going to get wore out. You're going to miss a lot of good opportunities. You're going to miss a lot of big game. And on the flip side, if you just work smart and you lose that hard work ethic, you're going to learn to cut corners. You're going to get sloppy. You're going to take it easy. And your clients will start to see that, and they'll start to see that you changed from the person that they trusted, that they knew, that they liked, and they respected, that they fell in love with, that their kids remembered, that they wanted to do business with, and now you're just doing what's easy. And so always remember to keep the balance of working hard and of working smart. Now, if anybody has any questions, please ask them now. Or any statements. Thank you, Denise. Glad you make it. How hat tricks get done. That's right. Those of you that don't know, a hat trick is 3 sales in 1 day. Tracy Ann Ross, always a pleasure. Don't judge by appearance. You never want to judge by appearance. A great story I had, and Frank Vasquez basically said something similar, never judge a book by its cover. But a great story I remember, and I've probably told this before, I share this with my clients often, but we were going out of town. We were going on like a 2.5-week vacation, and I just came off. I'll never forget it. It was May of 2007, and I was just coming off my first 30-car month, and I did 32, and my partner did 33. And so he beat me, and we just had a horse race. It was a fun month. First time I ever hit 30, and like I said, I did 32, and so it's like the 2nd or 3rd of June, and we're heading out of town in a couple days. And I remember I was in the showroom. I was trying to get all my deals broke down, make sure I got paid on everything, make sure I got all my loose ends tied up, make sure I got all my mailings out, all my emails out, sent out all my plates, did all the stuff that I needed to do. And so I was doing that, and I had an appointment that day also, and it was this company from Japan, so I sold them a bunch of vehicles, but I always like to make sure that I had a lot of dedicated time for them, because sometimes the communication was kind of tough, and I wanted to make sure that everything worked out and that we were on the same page. And you know, after you come off a big month, oftentimes you just want to, well, I just wanted to get things cleaned up, and I wasn't as worried about selling because I just came off this huge month and I was getting ready to go out of town. But this big guy, this country guy, comes in, overalls, old white t-shirt, some cowboy boots, and I see the guy because the way our showroom was is when you walked in, there's a receptionist desk here, and then there was a layer of cubicles all the way around the showroom, all the way around the perimeter, and then on the north side, I guess you'd call it, there's another level of cubicles next to them. So this guy kind of walked around, real slow. The girls at the front didn't greet him, and he walked around real slow, just kind of checking everybody out, checking everybody out, checking everybody out. And he walked all the way around, and I was one of the last desks over on towards the entrance. And so then he starts going back the other way, and he said, "Can you help me?" And I've got a stack of deals this big that need to get broke down. I've got an appointment in like an hour. And it was always kind of tough, like I said, because they didn't speak really good English. So it was always kind of tough communication, and the checks came from Japan, and it was always a whole process. A lot of the times the people who were getting them didn't have drivers, so I had to walk them through the process. They were a lot of work, but they bought 10 or 15 vehicles before they pulled the plug and went back to Japan and dropped their operations here during the recession. But this gentleman walked up to me and he said, "Can you help me?" And so I kind of sighed, because I'm like, I'm just trying to get things done. I'm going to be gone for 2.5 weeks. I want to make sure I get paid on these deals. And I said, "Of course I can help you. Please come in and have a seat." So he comes in and has a seat. And this was those of you in car sales know what we call a lay down, right? A lay down is when somebody just comes in and says, "Hey, I want that. What's the price? Okay, I'll pay it." So guy comes in and he says, "There's this red truck out there," and it was a regular cab F-150, 6-cylinder automatic, air conditioning, nothing else, just a basic truck. And he said, "I want that truck out there, da-da-da-da-da. I'm retired from Ford. What's my A-plan price?" And he said the red truck with leather. And I said, "Which one?" And so I go out there and I get the stock number so I can pull it up on Reynolds and Reynolds. And I said, "Well, I want to make this, I want to bring this out right away that's actually vinyl. It's not leather." And he's like, No, that's fine. I just don't want cloth." So I said, "Okay, no, I just want to make sure that we were squared away on that." And so I gave him his price, and he sits there and he kind of cocks his head both ways, and he said, "Yeah, I'll take it." And I said, "Okay, excellent." And so I get to talking to him and everything, and so I said, "I saw you walk around the showroom." I said, "What made you choose me? These other 40, 50 salespeople, what made you choose me?" And he said, "I walked around and all these people, they're just sitting there talking to other salespeople, they're chit-chatting, they're sitting in their desk playing on their computer." And he's like, "Nobody looked up, nobody gave me the time or day." And he's like, "And I saw you," and he said, "You looked like you had a nice face, you were smiling, and I could tell you were working hard, and I thought, that's who I want to deal with." And so oftentimes, like I say, when we're in sales, people are always watching us. When we put ourselves out there, people are always watching us, even when we don't know that they are. And this guy just wanted to be treated like everybody else. And so I started talking to him, and I said, "Okay, here's your price with taxes, everything. You're going to need a new license plate." He didn't have a trade-in or anything. I said, "This is your out-the-door cost right here. How are we going to pay for it?" And he said, "I'll just write a check." So I said, "Okay, excellent." So he's writing a check. It was a base truck, but it's still $21,000, $22,000. It's still a nice check to stroke. So he said this. And so I'm taking down some information, filling out the buyer's order and everything, and asking where he lives. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm over there on the lake in Belleville, and this is my address." And I said, "That's a nice lake. My friend used to live there. We used to do some water skiing there and had a lot of fun there." And I said, where do you live on the lake?" I said, "I know the lake pretty well." And he said, I'm on the peninsula." I said, "Wow, I know that peninsula." I'm like, "There's some really big houses on that peninsula." And he said, "Well, like I always say, if you want to live the high life, you got to pay for it." So what I wanted to share with this is one of the best money lessons I ever had was from a country guy in overalls, a dirty t-shirt, cowboy boots, walked around 50 salespeople. Nobody reached out to him, including me, and I was super busy, but nobody reached out to him who wasn't doing anything. And the guy came up to me, and I sold the guy a vehicle, and I sold more vehicles to his kids and himself in the future, but the guy just wanted to be treated like everybody else. The guy just wanted to be treated good, and this guy's living in a $750,000 house. Okay, nicer than any salesperson that worked there, $750,000 house. And a lot of people might have thought they were too good to talk to him, or he might not have the means or the resources. So like Andrea said, and like Frank Vasquez said, never judge a book by its cover, because the greatest novel might have the most boring, awkward cover. And on the flip side, the worst book might have the best graphics and the best, catchiest cover. So never judge a book by its cover. You have to be flexible and use your poker reads with each client as if you only use that one style. The cookie cutter, then you'll lose many customers. Absolutely. Yes, have empathy and conquer what you chase. Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. How do you feel after coming off a big month? You know, what I learned coming off a big month, because I saw so many people do it, Adam, and this is a great question, and I did it early in my career, is I call it kind of that big month hangover. And I see this a lot when I talk to some of my GMs, some of my clients, GMs and general sales managers and dealer principals, and we go over the salespeople's numbers, and I'll see that they watched 250 modules of Conquer You training, and they sold 19 cars. And oftentimes I'll be friends with these people on social media, and it's all work, it's all focused, it's all this, it's all that. Well, and it's all positivity. Well, then the next month I see that their usage drops down to 85 modules of Conquer You. I ask the GM, the general sales manager, the dealer principal, what their, what so-and-so's month was. Well, he only did 9 last month. And I said, well, I could kind of maybe tell that was maybe happening because their usage was dropped in a third of what they were doing in the past, and their attitude that I see on their post on social media are a little more negative, or kind of like they're getting the wrong end of the stick and they aren't portraying that positivity. So the best thing to do when when you come off a big month, and this is why there's these phrases and these quotes that we live by in the dealerships, from hero to zero, and that is, whenever I came off that big month, I just wanted to keep it going. And that's really what made me the best, is when I was at the dealership, and for all the years I was number one at a big dealership, is I might only be the top salesperson 5 or 6 months out of the 12, but I was consistent every month. And I'd see people come in and they do 28, and then they come and follow it up with 12, to where I would constantly rather do 24 every month, get my 30s, get my 32s, get my 37s, have my big months, but have my slow months be at 18, 19, 20. And I just always wanted more. And I think we've kind of talked about this in the past a little bit too, Adam, is I always, made sure that I had a lot of my paycheck going to a lot of different places, so I had to make money. So it wasn't that I got to that certain mark that we all have in our head to where I'm like, oh, okay, I can cool the jets now. I can take it easy. I made my money. And I made my nut, I'm good, and I got some money for savings too, and I can take the wife and kids on a vacation with it. But so I always believed that I wanted to just keep pushing harder. So the way our store worked is usually the first couple weeks were slow, and we usually did 80% of our business the last 2 weeks of the month. And so usually our first weeks were kind of slow, but that's where I do a lot of my mail. That's where I'd reach out to my customers. That's where I take my days off. That's where I'd send out letters, email, text, different things like this. Try and go by. If a customer was close and their plate came in, I'd shoot them a text or give them a call. Hey, your plate came in and I can mail it to you, but rather than you having to come here after work or what have you, if you want and there's somebody at the house, I can just drop it off. Or I can drop it by your office. I'm going right by that way anyways. I know right where you work. But doing those things for the customers and just staying in front of them. And I did all this and I stayed busy all day. And then come the second week and the third week, I was just setting appointments, and making deliveries. And everybody's like, man, where are you getting all these leads from? Like which manager's giving you all these? Like, nobody else has these leads. And it's like, well, yeah. And you guys look at me at the beginning of the month, when I'm spending 6, 8 hours, 10 hours a day marketing and prospecting my client base, and you guys are talking about the football game, the basketball game, your kids' flag football game, you're talking about these things all day, and then come the middle of the month, you got 2 vehicles out, and you're like, wow, I need to pull something together here, and you want to start pointing fingers and wondering how everybody else got it, rather than watching how they got it, and assume that it was given to them rather than watching what they did. And Stan, sure, I saw you were here, and it's a pleasure to have you. Absolutely, Adam, victory. Thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate that. That's all right, Stan. Yes, those are some of the best customers. Anthony, I like it, don't sit fat. Oh yeah, after a big month, don't sit fat. No, so when you come off a big month, what you want to do is you just want to keep that momentum going. You don't ever want to, and I've shared this with you, Adam, on some of our coaching calls, you never want to rest in your laurels. You always want to push for more. You always want to try and become better. You always want to focus on things, other things that you can do, and you always want to make sure that you are utilizing that. Because once again, what I told my customers when they came in is, I don't want to sell you one vehicle, I want to sell you 10 vehicles, and I want to sell everybody 10 vehicles. So every time I got a new customer, every time I sold somebody, I was growing that. I kept my processes down. I worked a full day. I worked smart. Yeah, I might come in a little late and leave a little early at the beginning of the month when it's a little slow. But you know what? At the end of the month, you're going to see me in an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours early. You're going to see me stay an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours late to make sure that I get my paperwork done, make sure I get everything caught up. And another thing I'd recommend, Adam, is make sure you tie up your loose ends. That's another reason people come out and they have that hangover month, they have that bummer follow-up from a big month, is because they've got so many loose ends out there. They're working hard, they're not working smart. The customer says, can we get a free spare tire? Can we get this? And you're promising all these things, then you take it to your manager and they're like, we can't do this, we have no room, we're already losing money on the vehicle or what have you. Now you're jumping through all these hoops, you got to try and talk your manager into this, or you got to try and talk your customer down from this. But tie up all your loose ends. Do everything consistent, work smart, and when you come out the first of the month, don't ever take your day off. If you're going to take a day off like you do, Adam, take it off and go fishing, but don't just mentally check out at work and be there all day. Make sure that you're doing little things. Even when you aren't in the mood, make sure you're doing some little things. Make sure that you're sending out some thank you cards. Make sure that you're making some phone calls. You're sending some text messages. You know, great thing to do is, I was talking about the list and working hard at the beginning. Go back to service. And if there's a way you can see all your customers that were in there. If you don't already have, I just did a course about this and a webinar about how to mine and prospect more effectively and save online spending. But have that relationship. It's only a 4-module course, but it's 36 minutes of training, 71 training Q&A questions. Excellent course. It is going to be a la carte for everyone, but it's also going to be on the Conquer You platform for those of you that are on Conquer You. But don't ever get too big for your britches. Don't ever think that your laurels, don't ever rest in your laurels or think last month will just take care of itself this month. Always be eager, always be hungry, always be like you're looking for your next meal, and kind of have that animal instinct when it comes to starting your next month, is going right back at it, and don't pat yourself on the back too hard. You might knock your wind out. And keep the right mindset, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, Adam, very good. The weeds will overtake the garden. Time management is key. And absolutely. But so I wanted to thank each and every one of you. As always, it's been a great live stream. I know we've been kind of mixing up the schedule a little bit, but we are going back to every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Pacific. Every Tuesday I will be live unless I'm going to be out of town, but I'll give you a heads up. I'm going to do one every week. There's a couple trips and some training and some different places I'm going to be going, so I might not be able to make it every single week, but I'll always give you a heads up. And then on the second Tuesday of every month, we have our special guest, Ben Gay III. His last video is blowing up. In fact, if any of you saw this, Cardone actually liked the video today too. It was funny, about 20 minutes before the live stream, I was looking at my notifications on Facebook and it said Grant Cardone liked your video, but I've always liked Grant's stuff, great guy. But you work hard, but eventually learn to work smart. Working hard is cold calling, door knocking, working the lot, working the service aisle, doing all those things, doing the low percentage things, but putting in that hard work, creating that work ethic. Over time, utilize social media properly. Watch what the best in your dealership are doing. Know what the good deals are. Create your collaboration with the different departments so people see you as a go-to source and you have them as a go-to source. Work smarter, but never lose that hard work ethic. And you too will go from crawling to walking to running to flying. And you too will conquer you, conquer today, conquer what you chase. Always and forever. I appreciate every one of you being here with me week in, week out, consistent, all the engagement, all the statements, all the questions, all the additions that you all add. I thank all of you for spending your Tuesdays with me, as does my amazing wife, Sarah Walsh. As always, go out and conquer what you chase. Noel Walsh is out.